Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Ty, and today our group will be presenting the findings of our assessment on JetBlue's organization, strategy, and structure. Additionally, we will propose our recommendations to the status quo and present evidence to support our decisions. Chris will begin by discussing the foremost critical sectors that interact with our domain, and he will also identify what the top trends are within those sectors. Dan will address resource and information uncertainty and highlight the degree of complexity and instability presented by the environment. I will present our recommendations for JetBlue's organization strategy. Then, Melissa will explain our proposed structural framework to support the organization's strategy. Chase will describe the use of information technology for control and coordination, and I will conclude our presentation. Next slide.
The foremost critical sectors for JetBlue Airways are the industry sector, the economy, the technology sector, and government. Next slide. Each of these sectors has their own unique trends and implications for JetBlue. In the industry sector, growth has been forecasted by the FAA, and there's a strict attention to growth and stability for the formerly unstable industry. There's also a large trend of consolidation. 4 major mergers in the last 5 years happened within this industry. And for insight, according to the FAA, at 93 of the top 100 airports in the U.S., 1 or 2 airlines control the majority of the seats. That's an increase of 78 airports according to the Associated Press and the FAA. As a result, this poses some new competition for JetBlue, as they have previously been focused on a smaller share of the market, focused on low-cost, high-value experiences. In the economic sector, fuel prices have continued to fluctuate. Currently, the price of a barrel of oil is around $43, but it continues to fluctuate, and knowing that it could go up to as high as $100 per barrel in the future. As a result of fuel being a fixed cost that JetBlue must maintain to make sure that they are still delivering low-cost fares. An increase in demand is also forecasted as demands of business and personal travel have shifted due to the change in the economy and fare prices. Business travel has increased as well as personal travel, as the family unit has become more mobile as well. Finally, in the economic sector, a focus on value is consistent across the board. You know that there is pervasiveness of, through technology, which I'll talk about in a moment, of access to the lowest fares. The barrier to entry for accessibility in flight and airfare is lower than ever. For technology, because JetBlue is focused on low-cost, high-value in-flight experiences, technology for the in-cabin experience must be consistent with the average user's or the average consumer's experience at home. That's why it is important for JetBlue to stay at the forefront of these evolving and growing technologies such as TV, internet, and our in-flight Wi-Fi and other programming. Because of other fixed costs and changing prices, business agility is paramount for JetBlue, as they must focus on forecasting price and costs to make sure that they are still continuing to meet their business demands. Also, as I mentioned before, in the technology sector, online sales and the pervasiveness of fare comparison sites has enabled JetBlue to state their claim as the primary low-cost provider. Finally, in the government sector, this is incredibly important to JetBlue, as many airports throughout the United States are regulated by the local government. As a result, community and surrounding areas truly dictate the access to gates and the routes that are needed, as the only criteria for selection are quote-unquote best interests of the surrounding communities. This is at the sacrifice of formal bidding processes, and some major airports have actually focused on a slot system to make sure that they are still enabling growth. Also in the government sector is FAA regulation. This is a value for JetBlue because of the mandatory or the mandate of flight times, routes, passenger safety, and aircraft requirements to maintain their growth in the industry as well. Next slide.
The information and resource uncertainty that JetBlue deals with is extremely important, especially as the air travel industry as a whole demands stringent compliance with a variety of factors that weigh into its environmental complexity. As you can see, several of these factors include safety, timeliness, getting passengers to and from their destination, customer satisfaction as a service-driven industry, FAA and TSA regulation, as all air travel is regulated by federal and local entities. And lastly, foreign government interaction, as JetBlue prepares to expand, has expanded in the recent years, to Latin American and Caribbean markets. Some poignant examples of the information and resource uncertainty that JetBlue deals with can be taken in lessons from the Valentine's Day storm of 2007. In February 2007, a major snowstorm crippled all air travel and transportation across the northeastern United States. This is of particular interest to JetBlue, as two of their major hubs operate out of Logan International Airport in Boston and JFK International Airport in New York. This basically created an issue where JetBlue could not, or had to recover from an image issue, as they could not recover as quickly as their competitors and other airlines in the United States. This is addressed immediately by JetBlue by developing functional project teams to recover from irregular operations. In this instance, that would be the inclement weather across the Northeast. These functional project teams were developed at all of JetBlue's airports, consisting of everyone communicating with one another, from tarmac crews to aircraft crews to ticketing agents, customer service personnel, baggage personnel, and gate facilities. In addition, to establish better communication and fluidity across the organization, they established a Systems Operations Center to further increase coordination and quick recovery from these operations. The Systems Operations Center was established at JetBlue's headquarters in New York. It facilitates all communications between the airports, FAA, local entities, air traffic control, and JetBlue's corporate headquarters to ensure that all JetBlue flights get to their destinations as quickly and as fluidly as possible. Lastly, in regards to resource uncertainty, JetBlue is not unlike any other airline in that it is continuing to modernize its fleet and its technology, as we'll see further in the presentation. In addition, resource uncertainty has been addressed in terms of expansion by securing two major hubs in Florida, Orlando and Fort Lauderdale airports. This has eased JetBlue's expansion into Latin America and Caribbean markets. Environmental change and complexity, as you can see, for the airline industry is somewhat complex. It is very similar to the aerospace industry in that it's very complex and unstable with a myriad of factors that it has to deal with. Uncertainty has been very prevalent since the downfall of many airlines has occurred in the past 15 years in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Therefore, for JetBlue to continue to be successful, dynamic strategies are needed. Uncertainty comes in many forms, which we have seen earlier in trends and sectors that JetBlue addresses as an airline. Rising fuel costs, although these have quelled in the past 2 years, they're expected to go up in the future, and it has been a common theme for the past decade. FAA, TSA government regulation is always changing, and JetBlue as an airline must continue to respond positively to it. Foreign customs interaction obviously comes in with the airline's expansion into Latin America and Caribbean markets. And lastly, safety will always be a paramount factor within the airline industry. As you can see on the 2x2 matrix from DAFT, JetBlue operates in a very complex and unstable environment, thus with a high amount of uncertainty. Although we would not define it as complex as some of the other firms here, such as oil companies, telecommunications firms, and large healthcare companies, it is rather complex. On a scale of 1 to 10, we rated an 8 for both environmental complexity and environmental change. So as we've said, not as complex as these other factors, but very complex and unstable nonetheless. Therefore, as we stated prior, a dynamic and important strategy is needed for JetBlue to be successful with other airlines. Next slide.
Thanks, Dan. Based on our assessment, we recommend a hybrid strategy comprised of Michael Porter's differentiation and low-cost strategy and Miles and Snow's analyzer strategy. In order to differentiate its services, we recommend that JetBlue continues to provide complimentary amenities for all its customers, including snacks, entertainment systems, and leather seats. This focus will provide its customers a sense of high-value in-flight experience. Additionally, JetBlue should continue differentiating its business on the premise of market scope. JetBlue's main focus should remain being a domestic point-to-point carrier. By taking the most direct routes, JetBlue can avoid some of the challenges associated with flight connections. Lastly, we recommend an analyzer strategy for JetBlue as it continues to grow its business. By being a second mover, JetBlue can avoid the high risk and high investments associated with being a first mover. Currently, the analyzer strategy is working well for JetBlue. In 2015, JetBlue reported $6.4 billion in sales revenue. Next slide.
Considering our prescribed strategy, the best fit is the functional structure. JetBlue seems to be operating with this structure currently, which works well when the organization needs to be controlled by vertical hierarchy and when efficiency is important. Next slide. To maintain vertical information sharing, JetBlue utilizes vertical linkages such as hierarchical referral, which is a process where employees report problems up to the next level, and when solutions are developed, they are then rolled down the ladder. This process is very practical because all aspects of JetBlue's operations must adhere to strict FAA guidelines to ensure passenger safety. Also, as we previously discussed, JetBlue's daily operations utilize the SOC, or Systems Operations Center, to ensure effective communication through its chain of command. This organizational structure not only provides the benefit of ensuring efficiency of corporate resources through strict chain of commands, but also allows for economies of scale, enables in-depth knowledge and skill development, and enables organizations to accomplish functional goals. However, it does present the following disadvantages: slow response time to environmental changes, poor horizontal communication, and less innovation. Therefore, our recommendation for JetBlue is to remain mechanistic as an organization, but operate organically within departments. This will allow for JetBlue to better respond to their environment and customer service issues, which is also made possible through their current culture that focuses on employee empowerment. Next slide.
In the airline industry, coordination, control, and cost are all of primary importance. I'll be talking about how JetBlue is improving these areas through technology. One initiative JetBlue recently began is the auto check-in process, which eliminates any need to log into a computer or mobile app, and travelers no longer need to bring a ticket and check in to be assigned a seat on a flight. The auto check-in process happens 24 hours before the flight begins, and passengers are checked in, assigned a seat based off preferences from previous flights, and receive their boarding pass electronically. In 2014-2015, JetBlue processed 700,000 auto check-ins, and this process is only expected to expand in the future. Another enhancement in technology is JetBlue's Wi-Fi, named FlyFi, which is the fastest of any airline according to NBCnews.com and Gizmodo.com. While this is advantageous for the passengers as a source of entertainment, it is also a benefit to the flight attendants and crew members on the flight. With the use of Wi-Fi, iPad minis were now an option instead of traditional flight manuals. With these iPads, attendants can view seat maps, see delays, know passenger birthdays, if the passengers have connecting flights, and also allow JetBlue to be the first airline to use Apple Pay. Next slide. While technology can be used to improve customer satisfaction levels, it can also be used to generate revenue and reduce costs. JetBlue's in-flight entertainment business, Live TV, was sold in 2014 for $400 million to a company called Thales Group, which is a French aerospace technology and security company. The benefit of having the service ran through Thales Group was JetBlue would reduce the overall operational costs it was incurring because it would now be run as a subsidiary rather than a focal point. Through the use of technology, JetBlue has been able to not only add value to the customer satisfaction experience through better coordination and control, but also increase revenues and reduce costs. I'll now turn it over to Ty to conclude our presentation. Next slide.
Thanks, Chase. In summary, we highly recommend a hybrid organization strategy for JetBlue. Along the same line of reasoning, we believe that a functional structure will be the best fit to support the organization's strategy. We also, however, do recommend an organic structure at the lower levels of the organization to ensure responsiveness. Our recommendations were based on the foremost critical sectors that we identified and the top trends within those sectors. Also, we evaluated the environment to understand the degree of complexity, stable, unstable, and level of uncertainty that it presents. Lastly, we looked at the implications of information technology for control and coordination. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation.